Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages. I started doing that yesterday, and I like it as the intro. Welcome back to another episode of Always Almost There, Day After Show Live. We are here today to talk about Oakland Night 2, September 26, 2023. And I'm here joined by the pickleball menace of Colorado himself, owner of a lot of hair on his head. It's fresh off the course, fresh off the courts, Mr. Jive Goose. Hello.
How are you?
Fantastic. How are you? Good to
to
see your face here on the pod.
Yeah, man, it's been a minute. Feels good. It feels good to be back. I'm actually I'm up at my friend Brian Treese on Twitter. If anybody knows him, really good guy. One of my closest, oldest friends. He lives up in Buena Vista, about half an hour north of where I'm at. So I'm up here for some pickleball kind of every day this week. So just using his house as my home base for today. I had to come on today because
there's a lot happening.
Well, to be honest, look, I don't want to get too hyperbolic right off the bat, but this Oakland 2-night run was an absolute legendary performance by me and Fantasy Goose.
Yeah.
So we'll get into that a little bit, and then we'll talk about the music as well at some point. But yeah, happy to be here, Ryan. So yeah, let's do it.
Have any pickleballs been renamed Wilson by chance? Ryan Molnar wants to know.
So Wilson isn't really in the market. A lot of tennis brands, have crossed over. Wilson, not so much, but as soon as they do, I'll be all over it.
Mm-hmm, of course. And I like the shirt, very, very subtle repping of the band today.
Yes. Yeah. Big shout out to Dave and the Gibberish guys. I was fortunate enough to get my hands on a number of the pieces from this latest collab. And this latest collab I thought was fire. I mean, they've always done really good stuff together. This was my favorite, and yeah, I was so happy. I've got a little bit of a connection with Dave through where I live, and through his sister who lives in my town now. So yeah, really awesome guy. Stoked to like I said, to be able to rep this stuff. It looks great on the court. Any other players out there, yeah, you got to get that Gibberish gear because you look great on the court. When you look great, you play great, and I mean it's phenomenal.
I mean, it's the shirt of the Golden Goose champion. That's the official attire of winning Golden Goose 2 shows in a row.
Yeah, yeah, back to back. Has it been done before? I don't know. The double G's.
So. Yeah. This is why I'm sad Neil couldn't make it here today, because I really like, there's something special about the two of your Fantasy Goose banter. And so I'm sad that we can't, offer that to today's listeners. But don't worry.
Yeah.
Come the tour recap.
Well,
there's sure to be lots.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's understandable why he didn't want to come on today. I mean, that's, yeah.
Well, before we dive into the show, while we're still on the topic of Fantasy Goose here, shout out to Brad Solari for keeping the top spot warm for you for the first half of the tour.
Is that who was up there?
Yeah, yeah. Well, you knew because as you said last night in the group chat, Jive Goose doesn't scroll down.
Yeah, no. Brad's been crushing it, and he's doing the work on the set list side of things too. Which is great. He's a solid guy. Looking forward to seeing him actually, I think next week. So
yes, it's gonna be exciting.
I could talk for 45 minutes about how excited I am for next week. But we probably don't have time today.
No, we're gonna dive into the show. We do have a guest joining us in a little
special
bit.
Guest.
Very, very special guest. We talk about him a lot on this podcast actually. But let's talk about this show. A little bit. B, since you haven't really been on the day after shows so far. Oh, perfect timing. Right before we're about to dive in, we've got Mr. Brian Brinkman joining us today. Hello, Brian.
How you guys doing?
Fantastic.
Yeah, doing great.
Thank you for coming. We name drop you on every single episode of this podcast, so it was time that we had you on.
I just have my I have my pods for you guys just programmed to the name drop, so I can just get caught up really quickly. So
Perfect.
thank you guys. It makes it great.
How are you, Brian?
I'm doing well. I've been enjoying this fall tour. I enjoyed Goose's debut just outside of Missoula, Montana. Technically Bonner, where the Kettlehouse Amphitheater is located, but I can assure you all that maybe 5 people from Bonner were at that concert. Amazing spot for the band to play, an incredible show, and it's been a ton of fun to follow. These shows are starting a little bit later than I'm able to handle at this point in my life, but waking up to fresh boards is a new Goose experience. Usually we have to wait a couple of days for all that to happen. So I wake up, take the dogs for a walk, and listen to some great jams. It's been fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So five people only so Bonner's not 100% sold. That sounds like to me. Okay.
No,
it's
Show
more of a panic demographic. Let's say that. But Missoula is very Goose friendly.
That's good. Jive Goose is alive.
Yeah.
Thank you for noticing.
Yeah, I'm thriving actually. So thank you.
Yes. So unfortunately, none of us were at the show last night, but we've all heard it. I stayed up for the webcast last night, and so we're gonna share some thoughts here. Anybody, of course, feel free, as always, as we're talking about things, let us know in the chat whether you agree, disagree, think we're idiots, whatever it may be. But we're gonna dive into the show here, and we're gonna start with the first few songs of the set. We'll start with you, Brian. Kind of getting us easing into the night, if you will. Dr. Darkness, All I Need, Lead Up. What do you think of these 3?
I thought Darkness and All I Need were a great 1-2 punch. In terms of like the pure rock songs that Goose has that can be used as an opener, I tend to really like Dr. Darkness. I think that it has just like a really interesting story behind it, and like the imagery that I get out of the lyrics I really enjoy. You always get kind of the weird sonic energy on either the front or back end of it, but this All I Need is really good. It's only 13 minutes, but like I think the term you tend to use, Ryan, is efficient Goose jamming. That is your endless defense of the San Francisco Wisteria Lane from 2022. Just as efficient as possible. But this All I Need is very efficient. It gets right to the point. There's no kind of messing around. The band modulates a little bit, and they get into a space that within like 5 to 6 minutes of the song, you're just like deep into a jam here, right at the start of the show. And that's always a really exciting moment. That's something that ever since I started listening to this band has been one of the great appeals, is there's no part of the set list that is off limits for exploration, especially with a song like All I Need that, can open a show with a 26, 27 minute long version. You're always going to have an opportunity there. So really dug that. Probably after that, it's place for a ballad. Lead Up, serves as a good ballad with a bit of a build on the end of it. What'd you guys think?
I thought this was a good way to open the show. Dr. Darkness, one of those first set tunes that I figured was coming last night, and I feel like it works well in the opener slot. Get the night going. Yeah, your point. Just we talked yesterday a lot about how the band felt a little bit tired on Monday night, a little bit lower energy at times. Immediately as they rip into All I Need, like Rick is just playing with so much more energy. The whole band feels tighter and more locked in than they were on Monday. And yeah, they get to some amazing places in this 13-minute All I Need. I really, really wish I had gone a little bit longer, or we would have gotten a second jam, something like that. Push it to the point where it could have made the playlist. But this is definitely well worth your time to go and check out. Really great jam here. And then yeah, Lead Up is just the best song. I'm never going to complain about seeing it in a set list. Mr. Jive.
Yeah. Yeah. You guys hit on some good points there. Yeah. Darkness is, it's not my favorite song in the catalog.
Right.
But, not a bad opener. There could be worse, so, but here's the thing that's funny is you get to the end of that Dr. Darkness, and I feel like there's other openers like this too, where I almost feel like in the seconds as it was ending, like I felt like I heard All I Need coming, like a little bit of a premonition there. But even if it wasn't All I Need, I feel like that's just a really good. I feel like Darkness is a really good setup tune for a big banger to come out. Right? Because I did feel like they were going to come out firing last night. So even with the Darkness opener, I kind of felt like, oh yeah, I mean, they're going to go big here. If they don't do it out of the gate, they're not going to wait too long. So, it's interesting too what you said, Brian, about All I Need. I kind of feel like with All I Need, I kind of feel like this is one of those songs for them where they can slide into the jam so easily now. They've been playing, this song's been around forever for them.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think Rick wrote this one when he was like 7. And so they're so acclimated to this song. It's like second nature for them. And so, you say efficiency and whatever. It's like, yeah, that's a great point. I mean, this is a song for them where they can very efficiently get into it. And they do that. And frankly, I think that's why these jams where you see All I Need on the Nugs come up and it's 14 minutes and you're like, oh man, well, that must've been a bummer,
Yeah.
But they get into it. So they slide in and it's hot right away. And they quickly take it to interesting new places. And so, 14 minutes, that's still a really good jam with some nice improv in there. And I think they obviously feel good about the single jam, All I Needs, and it lets them stretch their legs, create something great for everybody. And then let's move on. It doesn't need to be 25 minutes. That's nice once in a while to get that, but I feel like you can't go wrong with All I Need, and that's why it was my 8-pointer too. Because I guess the premonition started before Dr. Darkness even. So, I also love Lead Up. Such a good song. Like that feels like it would be a really good radio song for them. Honestly,
what? No one's ever said that before. That's a new take.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's gonna happen.
It's gonna be their NBC must-see TV ballad, big hit. That's gonna whatever the next generation of This Is Us is. Lead Up is going to end some massive episode and is going to become the biggest Goose song ever. I just feel it in my bones.
So, are you saying that Shapiro is talking to some Hollywood execs about maybe?
You never know. Like, listen. I urge everybody, if you have not seen the Madison Huvon 90s music video for Lead Up, go find that on Twitter, because it is art. And you will never be able to unsee it every time you listen to the song. It's truly, truly beautiful, and everyone should go find it. Oh, we've got Brad Solari in the chat. Hello, Brad. Come to watch Jive gloat. Oh, and he couldn't miss it. Ladies and gentlemen, he's here. He made it.
I couldn't stay away. I have terrible audio, so I'll only stay for a minute. But I saw you guys, and I just felt like I had to be here in the presence of Fantasy Goose legend, Jive G Goose. So here I am. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Well, but now that Neil's here, we're gonna dive into the first couple of big jams of the night here. After kind of getting our toes wet with All I Need, we've got Elizabeth, Western Sun, and Yeti. Man, this Elizabeth has just been so incredible this year. It's funny if you look at a set like this, a first set like this, back in 2021. Obviously, 2 of the songs didn't exist in 2021. Ryan Molnar, congrats on breaking out of the shower during the day, Neil. Sorry. But Elizabeth has just been jamming so well this year. In a set like this, where you'd be like, oh, there's an Elizabeth and a Yeti, not much to look at here. Elizabeth has returned to jam vehicle status in a big way. It was like that in 2019, 2020. And so it's amazing what they've been doing with it this year. And this is the second Bay Area Eliza Bliss this year, as people have been calling it. And what an absolutely beautiful, beautiful jam they get into here. I was blown away last night, and I was blown away listening this morning. Definitely on the playlist here, but just a truly spectacular jam. Loved it. Jive, you got thoughts on this?
Yeah. I mean, look, it's I was a little bit surprised. See, so I'm one of these guys where I kind of we debate this a little bit about, is Peter looking at what they played in the Bay Area earlier this year? I think he is. He's told us that he does that. Now, that doesn't mean that there will 100%, it will be 100% no repeats, so, but at the same time, I don't load up my fantasy picks with repeats because I kind of feel like they are going to err on the side of as few repeats as possible. Put it that way, I guess. But man, they love a Bay Area Elizabeth because, you mentioned the one earlier this year, but then the last San Fran show last year, you had the Liz there as well. So yeah, I feel like if you see Goose in the Bay Area, you're just going to get an Elizabeth, right? So take your quick break, but get back for the jam. Like that's my
civilized.
Advice,
Would you call it a civilized break?
Yeah, I don't have that memorized, but yeah, that's a great little meme that you're referring to. It's like getting an SOS in Missouri. It's
right. Yeah, you're guaranteed.
There's like a 100% chance you're going to get that. So, but yeah, this is another great look. This one actually is probably my favorite because they did that. The soft section, I mean, it was so delicate. And, they really kind of took their time and everybody was playing so softly. It was gorgeous. And then with all the patience, they could muster, they built that up. And I thought it was so pretty sounding. And then they, and then they hit that peak like they do. And yeah, I mean, I really like this. And, whatever one they just did recently, was also really good. But yeah, I thought the Liz from last night, I mean, it's really good. I mean,
yeah.
Is it the jam of this first set? I'm probably,
yeah, I would say so. Neil, I want to hear from you on this Liz here.
Can we let Brian Brinkman go first so I can steal his takes?
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. That seems reasonable. All right, Brian.
No. I'll go quick because then I should probably leave because I don't want to subject anybody to my audio anymore. But this Liz is awesome. I listened to it first thing when I got up. It's the first thing I put on, and I've listened to it twice more. Listened to the drip field later in the show, like also 3 times today. But it's really good, and like Liz is a banger. Whether you want to believe it or not, Elizabeth is a banger, and it here it is. That's really all I got to say. Like, Jive already talked about like these really beautiful soft sections in it. Reminds me of like the last time they were out in San Fran, like similarly gorgeous. I think this version actually makes me appreciate that version more. I think we kind of wrote that one off and we're like, well, it's a one-off. And like now here we have 2 in very recent times that are exceptional. So
Neil, you do sound good. Like you're you should stick around if you can stick around. But yeah. Brian, let's hear your thoughts on the Elizabeth here.
I mean, you and I were texting about it this morning. We've talked a lot about from a jamming standpoint, I've felt the last 4 to 5 months have been very Rick heavy and very Rick focused. And while the obvious, talent is there and the reason for like him leading so many jams is there, where my interest has always gone with jamming in general and really with Goose in the last 2 or 3 years is kind of the more democratic approach and the more it's getting kind of weird spaces and see what happens. And so on the one hand, an Elizabeth like this that moves into a very beautiful bliss space that then leads up to a, rewarding peak. Some people could just, kind of ho-hum that and it's, it keeps happening over and over again. But like this version is you were talking about, Jive, like it gets so quiet and so patient, and the interplay between Peter and Rick really showcases Peter on the piano in a way that I just loved hearing. It sounds as though they're in absolutely no rush. It sounds as though the band just kind of found themselves in a musical space that they don't want to even try to escape from and try to move towards a peak. And then you get this just emotionally driven solo from Rick that reminds me definitely of the San Francisco Elizabeth, but of 2 Madhavans from earlier this year, the San Francisco one from, I believe, 428 and the April 1st one, my previous jam of the year from the Ryman, where Rick just is. I mean, it's on par with 1994 Harry Hoods. It's on par with what Jerry Garcia would do at his best. I mean, there's a clear sense from what he's playing here that this is rare. This is a rare feat for someone to be able to play with this much aggression, but also this emotionally and drive to this extremely well earned peak that midway through the set makes you feel as though you've kind of gone on a journey with the band. I look at Elizabeth the way that I look at Lead the Way, in that if those songs did not have a jam, I don't know if I would love them as much as I do, but I know whenever Elizabeth starts, I know whenever Lead the Way starts, that we're getting just a gorgeous bliss jam out of both of them.
Right.
And so whenever it starts, whenever I see it on a set list, I get really excited. And a version like this is kind of that reward for every 3 to 4 versions, in a row. You get kind of, good quality peaking Elizabeths, but then you get one like this where you're like, okay, this is really what this song can do. I absolutely love this here. I mean, I don't want to get us too far ahead, but like the Elizabeth, Western Sun, Yeti, that is as quality of a closing segment of a first set. Western Sun obviously has had some incredible jams, but doesn't necessarily need to. That's just a really, really good song. One of my favorite Pure songs from them. And then Yeti, this is the first one for me since probably the San Francisco 2022 version to like really pop for me. I don't know if there's been any others in there that I'm overlooking, but it felt like they were able to escape the song proper really quickly in a really kind of clear, communicative way, and jam in kind of a fun sort of cow funk method that I really dug.
Yeah, there's nice clav in there, of course. But yeah, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think this is the first jammed Yeti since like 3/9/22.
3/4/22.
No, they jammed it in Royal Oak.
Oh, it just wasn't as good.
Depends who you ask. There was no strike on the webcast. But yeah, this Yeti is really, really good. I loved how they, as you said, Brian, immediately started jamming it out as soon as the jam started. We've talked on this pod a lot about how Yeti can kind of get a little pedestrian, and exactly what you're going to expect for 9-10 minutes or so. So it was really awesome to hear this one go out, and just effortless groove. Really nice peak. Don't think this one is going to make the playlist, but really enjoyable listen, and something that I'll definitely revisit. Jive, you had a comment?
Well, Brian made an interesting comment about Lead the Way. That and look, I love Lead the Way, but I'm a dog guy, and so I guess Jeff would call you.
You put yourself on mute.
Oh, sorry, I tapped. So I guess according to Jeff, you would not be a doggo guy. You'd be more of a cat guy then. I don't know. What do you have? Do you have something at home? You must not have dogs.
I have two dogs and one cat. I'm a both guy.
You need, but I would
But I do. I mean, Lead the Way it's a fun song. It's just like the jamming element of it adds so much more to it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a heartfelt, love song to a dog. And I think that's what touches my heart. And so I'm a dog and a cat guy, for the record. So I just
patio.
They don't really have any cat songs, I guess. But we digress.
The Jive Goose catio building service.
Hey, did you build a patio for the dogs? That's the question. Right?
That is the question.
Well, they get the whole yard. You know what I mean? We have turf in the yard for the dogs. I mean, they got a little something special too. So, Ryan? Do you have a picture of the catio that you can pull up?
I don't. Sorry, but everyone can take. Everybody who's watching right now or listening in the future can take your word for it. The Jive Goose did in fact build a patio for his cats. Neil, you got any thoughts on this Yeti?
Oh, I want to talk about Yeti. Yeah. Before we move on, before we I don't want to go past this Yeti because it's really, really good. And again, so don't throw things at me and say it's just kind of just another Yeti, which I think might even be fair to say that it's not jam of the year. Yeah. But it's really cool, and probably the coolest Yeti in my opinion since the Pines in 2021. That Yeti was also cool. controversial at the time because some people really thought strongly that should not be in the Jam of the Year playlist. And I'm glad that he's here to talk about it. I felt pretty strongly that it should
Defend
be.
yourself.
But here we are. But no, this one is really cool. I think, again, I keep bringing this up, and like maybe I'm off base, but I hear it when I listen. It just sounds like really like classic rock to me. Like it sounds like Goose. I said this morning, it sounds like Goose is jamming out like Werewolves of London at some points in that jam. I think Jeff said it sounded like the Commodores. I think he was more right than I was. So yeah, I don't know. There's just a classic rock feel to the jamming that Goose has on this tour, and it shows up big time in this Yeti. It's not as good as some of the other kind of jamming they've done, and like the Rosewood from Borderlands, and the ones they bring every time. The Rosewood, yes, if you want to call it that, if you must. But yeah, fantastic Yeti. It's like totally worth checking out. It's great, and I love this fresh approach to songs that can be pedestrian, like you said, Ryan. They went out and they just jammed this one out, and I think it's a treat for people like us who listen to a ton of Goose. When they see Yeti on there, they're like, well, I know what to expect, right? It's going to be 7 minutes of Yeti, and then I can just skip over this, and I know what I'm going to hear anyway.
Right.
But not in this instance. I think it's exciting. It's cool that they're doing this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Anyone got any more thoughts on the first set here before we move further?
Well, I can't miss an opportunity to agree with Neil, even though it happens all the time. So Neil and I were at the Pines together, and so that's the sentiment, though. It's like that's a special part of being at those shows. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be Jam of the Year to be special. You know what I mean? Like I bet everybody at that, I would have loved to have been at that show last night for that Yeti, and been like, oh yeah, dude, I saw that fucking cool, unique Yeti. You know what I mean? Just like that's how we felt at the Pines. We were stoked that, that we got that fire Yeti, and that's a blazing Yeti. I mean, that's just
5 months later. You didn't think so?
Well, it's got a stack. That now we're talking about, relative to other things, but that's a separate conversation.
Yes,
so yeah, no, super, super cool and fun. And yeah, I mean, that was a really fun first set. I mean, I was pretty psyched. I thought I might, I didn't want to fall asleep, too early. These Pacific time shows are rough.
It's a whole hour later for
even
you.
For the Mountain Time people. Good work. Nice effort from you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Making it through the night. We were still messaging at like 12:30 Mountain Time. So you were a trooper.
I've improved since fall 2021 on not falling asleep during late webcasts, especially when I'm on setlist duty. That's actually like last year I was still falling asleep. The infamous Vegas show where I fell asleep at the end of the first set and woke up during Don't Be Cruel.
Dude,
I was really confused why there was an Elvis impersonator on stage.
Yeah, those hard kombuchas sneak up on you, man. I feel like you've dialed that back a little bit, which is smart.
All right.
And that's smart, especially at your age, your young age.
Thank you.
You know what I mean?
Thank you. Let's let's dive into set 2 here. We've got Atlas Dogs, Creatures, Knights in White Satin. Starting us off. I really like Atlas Dogs in this slot. I think, we were talking the last time it was played. Maybe it gets a little bit predictable in the first set, and so I think similar to Dr. Darkness, you mentioned using it as like a setup for what's coming next. Atlas Dogs works best anywhere in the show as a setup right now. Obviously, it wouldn't if they decided to start jamming it again. Goose, please start jamming Atlas Dogs again. But the way it is right now, it works really well as a setup for something, like 5 minutes. We're going to, get going, warm back up into the set, and then dive into a big jam. I was personally expecting Wisteria here. I feel like we're kind of waiting for the next Wisteria on the tour. But, Creatures was a good choice as well. Fun, pretty run-of-the-mill version, but still great. And then the first Knights in White Satin since last October, in OKC, 77 show gap, Neil, 77 show gap. But yeah, that's what I got on these first 3. Who wants to go next?
I just want to give a big shout out to Atlas Dogs as a song that should just be played more. I'm cool with it jamming. I got my first one at Goose last year and was just it's one of those songs like I find with Goose, I found this with Fish as I was first starting to see them, that it'd be a song you would kind of just like hear as you were listening to shows and not pay a ton of attention to. And then you see it and you actually see the intricacy of it and you see what all the band members are doing. And Atlas Dogs was one of those songs that just kind of blew me away when I saw it for the first time. This Creatures is 17 minutes of carbs. It's it's a Creatures jam that stays within Creatures and is a dance party and is a ton of fun. Yeah, it's good stuff. I think Creatures is one of those songs that like it sometimes can be a challenge for them to break away from the song. Like we're going to talk about another song like this towards the end of this set, that the structure of the song caters to a long version, but it doesn't necessarily cater to breaking out of the structure of that song. And sometimes you get really great versions, like the 423 Creatures is one of my favorite jams of the year overall. This one just kind of stays in the pocket and grooves and is just a ton of fun throughout there. I think it would have been a lot of fun in the room. I don't know how much I'll go back and listen to this, in hindsight.
Mm-hmm. Neil?
Yeah, not much to say about these first few songs. I think there are other songs in the set I'm dying to talk about, but
yeah, we will.
Yeah, I mean, it's when you do the day after show a bunch that you run out of superlatives for Atlas Dogs, right?
Right.
It's coming in an opener slot. I mean, this time it's coming in the second set. Yeah, pretty cool. Creatures. I mean, yeah, it was a pretty cool Creatures. It was not Legend Valley Creatures, and
no,
thankfully for us.
Thankfully Vickers is not here when that got brought up. Jive, you got anything on Atlas Dogs, Creatures, Nights?
No, so I did take a little nap. So I completely missed the Nights in White Satin, and then I came to during the drip field. Which I mean, look, let's go to this drip field because I think that's the one we all want to talk about.
Take it.
And so the last two versions, this one and Bonner, have both been really, really good. And in fact, I'm excited to spend a little bit more time with both of them as I'm kind of going through my playlist and things like that. I think right off the bat, I had Bonner just a touch ahead, but I mean, look, I know Brian has a lot of thoughts on this and Neil does too. So I'm not going to say too much about it other than just, kind of emphasize how much I enjoyed it and how kind of refreshing it is to hear them, do a little something different because I mean, it takes time off the clock, you know what I mean? To play this song. So I think it really pays off to, to experiment with it a little bit and see where we can maybe kind of break free of the drip drums kind of part of that jam. And I don't know, Brian, I'm really excited to hear kind of your thoughts on that. Cause I think it is similar to Creatures in that way. It's like, and it's got such a built-in, jam to it that but it's enjoyable and it's easy, I think, to stick with that. But yeah, I mean, I loved hearing these recent kind of fresh takes. So yeah, excited to hear what you guys have to say.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah, we have another Brian Tompkins was also took a nap at a different point in the show. So it's good. You're not the only one who's falling asleep at the wheel here, Jive. And thankfully, you weren't in charge of any setlist threads. So all was good.
Yeah, I wasn't at the wheel. That's the thing. You know what I mean? So I have that kind of freedom now.
Yeah.
I can doze off a little bit,
Exactly.
After a big dinner.
I was gonna say long day at the courts, big dinner.
Yeah, beat by this time of night.
Take a nap. Brian, we've been alluding to the fact that you have great opinions on this drip field. Please share them.
I have opinions. I don't know if they're great. So
not all of your opinions are great. This one is.
We can go opinion by opinion and decide. No. So hot take here. Maybe not. I don't know. Objectively speaking, I think Drip Field is the best song this band has ever written. And I think that is part of the reason why it took about a year to break free of it. It is just a display of full band musicianship and communication. I remember the first time I heard the studio cut of this, thinking that they weren't going to be able to play it live. It just sounded too intricate. It sounded too layered. It sounded too, heavily influenced by the studio. It's one of those cool songs where you really get to hear that this band that, I'm going to go on a slight digression here, but like the Autumn Crossing EP, the thing that hit me the hardest about that was they really used the studio to explore Travelers and Elmeg. And you hear this band with a song like Dripfield, they really explored this song in the studio, but that didn't mean that they couldn't bring this to the stage and figure out a way to reinvent it. And throughout 2022, we got a lot of really good, solid, ever expanding, but never really type 2 versions of it. I think, is it 10-1? Is that the St. Louis one where
Atlanta.
Rick is just the Ricky Garcia version? Is that Atlanta? That's just beautiful, beautiful stuff. And I kind of thought that was the limitation of it. And then we got March 25th, which up until this morning was one of my 15 favorite jams of this year. And part of the reason why I had that as one of my top 15 jams of the year was because this was the first time that Dripfield really moved beyond Dripfield. And it showed this ability for the band to really kind of explore the terrain, both within the song, but also where can this song, like the structure and the foundation of it, lead them. And I agree with you, like the Missoula version, the Bonner version, whatever you guys want to call it locationally, that version was stunning. That is on my overall list. This one to me sounded like the first time that the band was within Dripfield, figured out a pathway out of it, and then built off of that in just a full band, communicative, democratic way that gets me really excited. It got quiet, it got hypnotic, it got rhythmic. There were just like moments where it was almost silly, and then moments where it was kind of creepy, and then it would get really pretty. And it was just a full, these guys are locked into a moment right now, jamming back and forth off of each other. I have this jam right now as 25, which I could see it moving up. It just, it strikes a chord with me that, I said this earlier in the show, I've found a lot of these jams to be rewarding from a peak standpoint, but almost too Rick focused, the Rick gazing of, all right, let's just let the guy go off and let's lead to a peak. And there's definitely a reason for that. But what they were doing in this Dripfield is what really gets me excited for both the current state of where Goose is at, but also where this band could be going, and their ability to jam in this sort of manner just hits me in a really deep place. So I loved this version. I'm going to go back and give it another re-listen after we get off here, and I could see it moving up again. It feels like a fully complete version of the song that also leaves the door open to opportunities for them to continue to explore both within and without Dripfield.
Thank you. Very, very, very well said. Neil?
Wow.
You want to steal some takes?
Yeah, well, I don't have much more to add after that. There's plenty to steal, so I'll use that in a later episode for sure. But I will say this one thing, which is like when we're talking about Dripfield, we think about this version and then the one that just happened. I think both are pretty remarkable. But rewind that even one more version on this tour and look at Boston. And that version is fire. It's fire. It's like not a standard Dripfield. So this is more than just a blip of just two versions in a row. They're like, well, they did some things with Dripfield. If you think back to, you had brought up Atlanta, right? Where it was just like, is this what Dripfield's going to be now? And then now I'm starting to wonder, well, maybe they're just going to take this thing for a ride. They have a similar level of comfort with Thatch now, where they're just going to go out and do 20-minute versions. Maybe that's where Dripfield is going. And and I understand why it would be hard to do that with Dripfield. But this version is super cool. I think it has all of the things that Brian said it did. I think there's an extended section of just straight Schofield riffing from Rick that sounds wonderful. We talked about that earlier today. And I mean, Adam, friend of the pod, who was on yesterday, was talking about like there's just straight up like Chank teases from a go-go in there.
But it's not like the main riff of Chank. It's like from like a solo, like 2 minutes into the song.
Right.
But it's Schofield phrasing.
That's my point, which is just like straight Schofield riffing from Rick. He has hit the Schofield button on his, and his pedal board, whatever that is. The thing is like, I want to sound just like Schofield, and I'm going to do it with my fingers also. So that comes in here, and like anytime he does that, I love it. So there's just so much good shit in this jam. I mean, it's wonderful. It really is good. It's definitely one to talk about for a while.
Would you say outrageous?
It is outrageous. I think whenever Rick is doing this Schofield shit, man, it is outrageous. It's nuts.
Outrageous
because he's so
Yeah.
good at it, and I just love Schofield so much. So
this is again this show. We talk a lot about how we want the dark jamming, we want the evil jamming, but then you get shows like this where they just do the bliss jamming and the upbeat stuff so well, and it's just like it's just perfect. There are ways that they can do a very easy path to a peak. That they're very good at it, but like stuff, a jam like that isn't necessarily gonna be in the conversation, for top jams of the year. But then they do a bliss jam like they do in this drip field, and it's unbelievable. I just want to mention again the way that Peter's been using that marimba piano tone this year, and just the layering of the sounds on that Nord, and he just keeps getting better at combining these things and sprinkling it into the jams, and just the percussive element that adds while they're in a major key with Ben and Jeff on the drip drums as well. Like really, really good. And yeah, listening to this again this morning, I've just, I'm blown away by this jam. And yeah, I'm excited to see how Dripfield goes, for the rest of the year. I bet we're going to get a really good version in Flagstaff next week, much to everybody going to Red Rocks' horror. But that's just my prediction there based on prior track records.
I mean, we can have 0 show gap repeats.
Okay,
I don't want to draw you that up again.
I have visual.
I can't believe you still have.
I have a lot of visual aids too. 2 things. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan. I know you will know this. Elizabeth and Dripfield were both unfinished last night. Is that correct?
Elizabeth doesn't have an ending technically.
Don't they usually come back though into
sometimes
Liz
they do, but it's not an essential part of the song, and therefore doesn't get noted as unfinished. Correct. They kind of landed in like a spacey major key spot, and I figured they were going to play the ending. And it sounded like, I think Peter started doing it, but Rick was kind of like, "No, I'm going to keep riffing on this thing that I'm doing, and then we're just going to end it." So it's funny to me when Dripfield is unfinished like that, because it's like they come within like an inch of finishing it, but they don't.
Yeah. Well, and I'm just looking at it on El Goose. It looks as though this is only the second ever unfinished version. The other one is Riviera from Chicago earlier this year. It's interesting because like that ending to Dripfield is beautiful. That's what gave us that Atlanta segment. But for them to have the kind of freedom to end Elizabeth on that peak and not try to force us back into the chorus, and to end Dripfield without having to go back into the coda of it. There's just something about that strikes me as a band starting to like feel the freedom of a song like that, not feeling confined by the structure of the song.
Yeah.
That's where you can get into an interesting space.
Yeah, and I talk about that a lot. We've seen a couple of unfinished All I Needs, like 1 or 2. Echo in Milwaukee last week, for example, they didn't need to come back and finish it. And yeah, it shows the freedom. It's we're going to go into the unknown. We don't necessarily need to find the song again, as great as that.
The song becomes a launch pad at that point.
Yeah, unless it's missed.
Playing the song within a jam.
Unless it's missed, in which case it should be finished always. Right, Jive?
I don't even want to talk about that. I'm in a good mood. Let's not ruin it by talking about Unfinished Mist. It's a crime.
It's happening too much. All right. Second set here closes with a nice Psycho Killer infused White Lights. Really cool jam there. And then a Slow Ready encore. I like this White Lights, especially, watching the webcast last night. The camera was on Peter as they started the jam. And, as he started, doing this, like, taking it into this like minor key groove in the piano, you can just see, he's always like smiling and stuff, but you could tell when he like finds a riff that's like, oh, like we're cooking now, and he just had this look on his face that was really awesome. But really cool jam in this White Lights. Psycho Killer's very cool groove to jam on here, and they do it very, very well. And then Slow Ready encore, always fun. Nice little dance. But yeah, anyone got thoughts on these?
Sure. I'll say this in the vein of Yeti being new and interesting in a way. You get White Lights made interesting by infusing this tease into it, and it's an enjoyable White Lights. It's another version of a song that maybe you can, take or leave on a given show. But this one is cool. It makes, I don't know, gives spice to the show that is just interesting outside of jams or bust outs or, covers or things like that. It's just the show's got a little something, extra. And I super enjoyed this version of White Lights. I listened to it more than once, which is rare.
There you go. Awesome. And sorry, before we move on here, just Ryan Molnar says Team Slow for the win. I would just like to echo that and note that on the written set list last night, they gave themselves the option of So or Slow for the encore, and they picked Slow, which, I mean,
It's the right
Goose's
pick.
Team Slow.
It's the right pick.
Yeah, it's fact now. Sorry, guys.
It speaks volumes.
Yeah.
think
We're all
both of these
Team
songs-
Slow on this podcast today, yes?
Very, very Team Slow.
I mean, do you like jams?
Do you like hip shaking?
Yeah.
Gyrating.
Yeah. I mean, at least they can get a jam in Slow Ready. There are no jams in So Ready. Maybe there are versions
shout
out
out
there.
Charlotte 2022 Slow Ready. That's a great one. Shout out Athens,
Athens,
2023.
Hey, the
Amazing.
Pines.
Yeah.
Pines again.
Good
Yeah.
call. Good call.
One of the best segues. Listen, Slow Ready jams are notorious for having some of the best segues in Goose history out of them. Slow Ready Drive from the Pines, Slow Ready Hot Tea. You have that Slow Ready Arcadia from Atlanta in 2021, 11/6/21. That's a really good one. There are many of them.
Yeah. What is
Slow Ready
got?
Moby,
Yeah.
3/11/22.
I think also
We can
these
keep going.
two songs just tend to fit well in these slots. I feel like the two times I've seen White Lights have come towards the end of a second set or in an encore, and it works in that spot. The Psycho Killer Jam here was great. Slow Ready, I really, really like as a standalone encore. You get like a full, the build up, you get all the synths. It's, that kind of closing chapter. Forgive me for the comp, but it almost kind of reminds me of like just a standalone Slave in the encore, where it's all about the emotional build, and I really dig it here in this slot. And I thought it was a good way to close out this overall show that had some really cool little jamming in it, and this overall run here on the other side of the bay.
Mm-hmm. Jive, anything else from you here?
No, I mean it was cool. It was cool. Not much else to add. I mean, I was happy. The Slow Ready encore, just to bring us back full circle. The Slow Ready encore, kind of tipped the scales for me with the back to back. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Is it unprecedented? Did we get a data check on that? I don't know, but yeah, Slow Ready. I agree with kind of what Brian's saying. I mean, it's just a cool. It's a fun way to end the show. It's a dance party. It's got vibes. So yeah, how does a vibes guy beat Team So? Actually, that just occurred to me.
Some things we don't know.
Anyway, yeah, great show. Nice little run. Every time they do these 2 nights in the Bay Area, I really want to go, and then I look to see how much it costs, and I don't. But
right.
But I got to make it out there at some point. I used to live up there, just north of the bay, and so yeah, just another great little 2-nighter, and day off today, and
we got
and
3
right
festival dates in a row because everyone knows that Southern California Goose is a festival every single show.
And then next week, I mean, the party of all parties. Colorado shows are always money. 2 nights at Red Rocks. We're all going to be there. It's going to be amazing. I'm really looking forward to that. It's been a while. Who was that? Was that Legvold?
Legvold, yeah.
Dropping that in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it hasn't been quite that long. I haven't been alive that long. Believe it or not.
Nobody believes that. Okay, we all know. Yeah, half the people on this call, don't leave the state of Colorado. So it's nice, that they're coming
Refuse
to you
Why?
next week.
Why would you?
Just
Man.
come to Red Rocks and we'll see you there.
Breathe it
Yeah.
in. It's gonna be awesome next week. But yeah, we've got shows in between now and then. We'll be back on Friday afternoon. Cam will be returning to the pod to talk about a show that we have heard this time after offering some insight on the unheard Cascade Equinox set the other day. But yeah, they're in the Wiltern at the Wiltern in LA tomorrow night, and then we've got Santa Barbara. We've got a festival date. Vegas, Flagstaff, and then it's Red Rocks. It's hard to believe that 8 days from now we're all going to be together. Very, very, very exciting day. I for one can't wait.
Are you and Neil sharing a room this time, or?
There's a lot of people sharing a house, and we will see. We'll see what happens. I know I'm getting there first, so
that is true.
We'll see how
I
it,
hadn't thought
we'll see how it
about
ends up.
coming in late.
Well, luckily, this is not a topic of discussion for this podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us today, Brian. It's been a pleasure getting you on here. After we talk about you on every episode, and yeah, and thank you for coming to Gloat Jive.
Yeah. I think one of the last couple of times I was on, Brian was also on, and it's always such a treat because you're such a consummate professional. Your microphone sounds amazing.
We've all been wondering what's
maybe
the
it's
secret?
just your voice.
It's
it might just be your smooth
NPR
voice.
Yeah,
but yeah, that is silky smooth. And then the takes flowing out of that silkiness, being so good. Yeah,
That's how I feel whenever Peter's dancing in Slow Ready.
It's a real pleasure. Yeah, it's a real pleasure.
This is sweet. No, you guys are amazing.
You too,
I love
Neil.
what you guys have done.
You as well.
I love what you guys have done here, and I'm in constant tension of sending Ryan a Jam of the Year list and his edits and his takes. So I just got to keep putting in the work.
Here's where here is. Thank you. Here's where Drive chimes in with, why are you sending them to Ryan? Send them to
I was
me
just
instead.
thinking that.
Yeah, I know.
Why the fuck would you send them to him? You just don't have my number, I guess. I don't know.
We'll make a new group chat here.
There we go. I'm into it.
All right. Yeah. The seventh one. Anyway, we'll be back on Friday. Thank you everybody so much for tuning in and sharing your thoughts and listening to us ramble, about Fantasy Goose. But yes, thank you. And as we close out, Brad Solari, good luck on the rest of the tour. Brian in Fantasy, hope I come back and beat you. Anything can happen. All it takes is one egg from you, Brian.
Yeah. I hope you don't. But good job by you, Brad, for hanging in there. You're beating everyone except for me, so that's something that you should be really proud of.
And I'm holding on to 2 points ahead of Neil. Anyway, we're gonna wrap up. Before we get more off topic, thank you again. I've said this 3 times already, but I'm going to say it again. Thank you everybody so much for listening to this episode of Always Almost There Day After Show. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and we will see you on Friday.